Welcome to this very special edition of NewsNite for April 6th, 2012. I'm Jody Miller, and our regular panel is off for this week. But that gives me an opportunity to present to you and explore two very unique programs in Northeast Ohio, one of which takes part in an inner-city Akron neighborhood, and one of which takes part on a golf course in Stark County. Joining me for the first segment of NewsNite, we welcome Dwayne and Lisa Krabs. They are the founders of South Street Ministries, south of downtown Akron, and a very unique program. And 15 years ago, they uprooted their families, and they moved to this neighborhood and totally changed their lives and the lives of the neighborhood, too. So welcome, Dwayne, and welcome, Lisa.
Thank you, Jody.
Glad to be here.
So why 15 years ago did you make this decision?
We often ask ourselves that question, and 15 years ago we were attending church in a very poor neighborhood, and our neighborhood is in the Summit Lake area, and there were 14 churches in that neighborhood of about 58 blocks. Used to be the Lincoln School District. And there were also 14 bars and carryouts, and we were struck that the bars and carryouts had far more influence in the neighborhood than the churches, and we began to ask questions why. And what we discovered is most of the churches were commuter institutions, whereas most of the bars and carryouts were supported by local. At least 50% of their business was walk-up customers. So we got involved with a kid who began to come to our church from the neighborhood. And his mother was a crack addict, and at the time Lisa was pregnant with our third child and on complete bed rest, so she was not able to be there. So each week Scotty would show up and sit with me in church, and we became good friends. And the week that Lisa came back with our daughter Hannah to church, it was a special Sunday, and Scotty walked in and he looked at Lisa and he said, "Mr. Krabs," he said, "who's that?" He said, "Is that your old lady?" And I said, "Well, Scotty, I don't think she'd like being called that. She's my wife." And he goes, "What's a wife?" And I looked at him and I said, "Scotty, cut it out. He's 7 or 8 years old. He did not know what a wife was." And so it really began to break my heart. And I listened to the sermon. We had a great pastor, but all those words sounded like Charlie Brown cartoons, wah, 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 wah. And as we drove home that day, I said to my wife, I said, "Honey, we cannot talk to these kids about the love of Jesus. We have to demonstrate it. We have to model it. We have to live it." I said, "Honey," and I started getting excited. I said, "We can move into this neighborhood. We can make a difference in kids like Scotty's life." And for some reason, when I turned to her and we made eye contact, she was not as excited as I was, and she began to cry. And at that point, I said, "Well, honey, will you at least pray?" And she said, "Yeah, I'll pray. I'll pray we'd never move in this neighborhood." And she just burst into tears. And that started about a 4-year journey where our marriage was under a lot of stress. She will always get credit for not divorcing me or not giving up on our marriage during those difficult times.
But you did move to South Street, and you started South Street Ministries. What is South Street Ministries?
Well, it's interesting. We did not set out to plant a church. The inner city is not lacking for churches. What we did was we committed to a mission, and our mission was the Bible. Jesus summarized the commands of the Bible, said, "Love God, love your neighbor." So really all we tried to do was, as a middle-class couple with 4 kids, we just tried to love our neighbors. So we didn't have a plan. We didn't do anything other than what I call sanctified self-interest. So if I took my kids to play baseball, I grabbed neighborhood kids. If we went camping, if we started a Boy Scout troop, everything we did was really just grew out of being good neighbors. And again, Lisa, so much of what she did as a mother, she just extended it to the neighborhood kids, and our yard quickly became the hub of activity for the neighborhood.
Whom do you minister to, Lisa?
We minister to the residents in Summit Lake and the surrounding neighborhoods in South Akron. Really, anyone who comes to our doorstep or comes to one of our programs are welcome.
Okay, do you have a viable church, or are you talking about your home, which is your church?
In 1997, when we moved into the neighborhood, everything was out of our home, whether it was a Bible study or after-school program or the kids coming over to play. The programs grew to a point where we had to move the church especially to the community center. And
that's where you now minister to?
Yes.
That's right.
Okay.
We did for a long time, yes.
But is it fair to say that your ministry evolved from like a church fellowship into a comprehensive neighborhood organization?
Yes, that would be very accurate. People need connection. They need relationships, and programs are an excuse for caring people to build relationships with people. And so much of what happens in our neighborhood is there's plenty of services. And so the challenge that we have is that a lot of our people do not need more services because services tend to keep people dependent. What they need is relationships in which they can find a way to work their way out of poverty and so forth. And so our church, the focus of our church is not a very traditional church. It's almost more like an AA meeting, but everybody participates. Everybody it tries to help each other. The best job program is somebody that knows where there's a job opening and refers that person. And so we do a lot of things that grow out of relationship first. And then out of those relationships, people help themselves, and we support them in helping themselves.
Well, explain the balance here of building relationships and religion.
Well, I'll give you a quick example. We have a couple kids in my neighborhood that just last week came up to me, and they're going to be homeless this week. And they're staying with friends, one of our neighbors, who, because they have not been paying rent, they said, we need to get you out of the house, and you have to be out by Thursday. That'll be a couple days from here. And I told these two young men, I said, you show up to church, and I said, we have a time we call open worship in which people share their concerns and their prayer needs. I said, you share before the church what's going on. And I said, there are people there who will help you either get a job or find a home, a place where you can stay. And these two young men did not show up for church. And so Monday, I was driving by, and I just happened to see them by Aldi's. And real quick, as they were walking down the street, I zipped right in. And this is the hard part. Sometimes you just got to be hard with these young men. I pulled right up next to them, rolled my window down. I said, hey, what's up? And they said, we were going to make it to church Sunday. And they started making excuses, and I cut them off. I was very firm. I said, you know what? We all find time to do what we need to do. And you chose not to come Sunday, so don't come talk to me about when you're homeless or you're having trouble. And then I drove away. Now, I don't like being hard in that way towards people, but I have enough of a relationship with these kids that it doesn't help them for me to let them feel like they're victims. I have to tell them, you made choices, and now you're suffering the consequence of those choices. And I don't like it, you don't like it, but I'm not going to let you make excuses. I love them.
Will they come back to you?
Yes, they will. That's the funny part. And at our cafe, we have had to fire 8 or 9 of the people that work for us, and 7 of the 9 still attend our church. So even while we're hard on people and we allow them to suffer consequences, they know we care. We're not harsh about it. But in the real world, people suffer consequences. One of the dangers of church caring or government caring is we often protect people from the consequences of their poor choices, and then we wonder why they continue to make bad choices.
Explain some of the programs that you offer and the kinds of work that you do through South Street Ministries.
All of the programs are a response from a direct need from the community. So, for instance, our after-school program meets 4 days a week. Elementary kids come. They receive a snack, they play in the yard, they get homework assistance. We have many other things that reach out to the kids. And the bike shop is a very popular program where it's like a habitat program where the kids have to put in some sweat equity to earn a bike. We receive donated bikes, and they, depending on their age, they're required to put in so many hours to fix up that bike before they can take it home. And we really like that because it starts the premise of nothing is for free. You have to give of yourself or give to others. And we think that's a very important value with our young people. We have open gym, and actually that is not even just open to the young men in Summit Lake. Our vans go to the west side, the north side, and the east side, and they pick up these young men, and they play basketball. We have a speaker that comes in and talks to them. They receive a meal, and it's just a lot of fun. Gardens. The kids are learning to garden. It's a lot of fun to watch them learn about growing things and then taking their produce and selling it and earning money. So all good.
And also, tell us about Front Porch, Front Porch.
One of the things, we're located, we were given a building, the old Croatian Club, which is right behind the Summit County Jail. And 20 to 30 people are being released from the jail every day and coming back into our community. And so we want to meet them because the decisions they make in the first 24 hours will dictate whether they're headed back to drugs and alcohol or whether they're going to turn their lives around. And so the Front Porch, again, is set up as a business we cannot count on government funding nor church funding. So we are more and more interested in using entrepreneurial efforts to help people get a job and keep it. There's a lot of soup kitchens, and in many ways they're needed, but we treat chronic poverty as though it's a crisis problem. Well, people need to, again, earn their keep, so to speak. And so, again, people want a job. People want the dignity of earning. And so the front porch, we hire people, and we also fire people if they don't do the work. And I think it's a step up from a soup kitchen. We've heard that saying, feed a man a fish, you feed him for a day, but teach him to fish, you feed him for a lifetime. And even in today's economy, that's not necessarily true. If you're an ex-offender and we have a 10% unemployment, guys are not always getting hired. So even if you know how to fish, the challenge is we need to be good stewards of the ponds. We need to make sure that people who are willing to work have an opportunity or an option to work. And a lot of these ex-offenders are not getting jobs, so we're trying to fill the gap.
How are you funded? I mean, what kind of budget do you operate on? How are you funded?
75% of our donations come from individuals that just care about what we're doing in South Akron. We do write grants for our programming, and which is a huge blessing for us to be able to take the kids on field trips, feed them, that type of thing.
One of the things that I really appreciate is we appreciate the generosity of people. We do not take an offering at our church because so often poor folks may not have something to give. We do not do promotions. We've really been very low key because there's always a danger. In the neighborhood, they call it being a poverty pimp. Sometimes people use the poor as a way to raise money. And so we've been very conscious as neighbors not to, again, put some of our little black kids as neighbors out in front and use them with pity to try to get suburban donors. And it's been a challenge. And we pray a lot, not because we're so spiritual, but because we wonder sometimes how we are going to make ends meet. But 15 years later, God has allowed us to not miss a meal and keep going. So we feel very fortunate.
If people want to know more about South Street Ministries, give us the website very quickly here.
The best way to contact us is through South Street Ministries, it's plural, .org. And there's descriptions of all of our programs, and so it's just spelled the way it sounds, one single word, southstreetministries.org. Or they can call us at 330-761-1992.
Well, we're going to continue discussion with Lisa and Dwayne Krabs and learn a little bit more about how maybe they've impacted some individual lives on NewsNite.net.
For more NewsNite content, including extended discussions, full interviews, and the chance to speak your mind about the issues, join us online at NewsNite.net.
Our second special edition of this NewsNite program is about hope, as in Clearview H.O.P.E. In this case, HOPE is an acronym for Helping Our Patriots Everywhere. Last spring, Renee Powell, who is a pioneer in her own right, launched a pioneer program at her family's golf course, which is Clearview down in East Canton, Ohio. Renee joins us to talk about Clearview H.O.P.E., which is a year-round rehabilitative golf program for women veterans. Also joining us, we welcome Judge Beth Whitmore, who is a member of the 9th District Court of Appeals, a former Air Force captain, a Vietnam War veteran, and a member of the charter class of Clearview H.O.P.E. Ladies, nice to have you with us.
Thank you.
Thank you. Renee, a year ago, you were approached by the PGA of America about a program for women veterans. Tell us about it.
Well, I have a friend that is at PGA of America, and he had contacted me and said, Renee, you know, there's so many programs out there for men veterans. There's no golf programs out there for women veterans. Would you consider starting a program? And PGA H.O.P.E. was a name that they had created, but there wasn't a program to go along with the name. And so he says, if you can create this program, that can be the model program that we can have and can serve as something for the rest of the country. Knowing that my dad had been a World War II veteran and also knowing that I had gone to Vietnam, he knew that I probably would not say no. And so thus it started back in May, not even a year yet.
Okay, how did you find the women veterans who took part in the program?
Jody, it was so difficult initially finding women veterans. You know, I knew they were out there, but I couldn't find any. And I called various places with the, starting at the VA clinic where I knew I used to take my dad to, occasionally. And then finally, I called a woman that I knew that I had given golf lessons to 4 years ago. And she had taken up the game. And I said, Hollis, you're a veteran, right? And I said, where are the women veterans? I want to create this program. And then she was one of my first. And then I had started another program, a 3-hole ladies golf league. And as I was telling these ladies about it, 2 ladies said that they were veterans. And they were my first 3. And then it continued from there. And I really worked hard to get them to help me do outreach.
Beth, you are a Vietnam War veteran. A female veteran, obviously. Yes. What is it like to be a woman's veteran?
Well, especially in the Vietnam era, it was quite difficult. Wearing the uniform itself was difficult, and especially it was hard for women because the military population and the civilian population really didn't understand what we were doing in the military. So it was a sensitive time, and fortunately, we are past that now, and we are into a era where many women are fulfilled in their service to their country and treated with dignity and respect all the time.
Tell us about your first trip down to Clearview. I mean, you were a golfer anyway.
Well, I played golf badly all of my life, but I enjoyed every minute of it. I received several letters from the VA, and of course, based on my history as a woman veteran during the Vietnam era, I was somewhat skeptical about things, and show me, prove it to me, make sure it's not a flash in the pan. And I just ignored the letters until finally I got a phone call. And so I went down, and I was a little reserved at first, but when I realized that this program was for real, that it wasn't going to disappear, it has changed my life.
Tell us about the fact that Clearview H.O.P.E is a rehabilitative program, correct, for women? It's a year-round rehabilitative program.
Well, it is. It's a recreational program, and it's a very therapeutic program because golf in itself is very therapeutic for everyone, but especially when you add a mix in with veterans and veteran women who have not really been in a program such as this, who have really not bonded and don't know each other around our area.
Tell us about some of the women veterans who play golf with you in this program, Beth.
Well, we're from all aspects of life. We've done many different things. We have different backgrounds, but we have one common element. We love our country, and we wanted to serve our country. And when we get together, we don't need to know about our different backgrounds. We already have so much in common that it's a complete experience. We can support each other, we enjoy each other's company, and that's what we need, and we just know it. It's there.
Now, there are some women veterans who take part in this program who maybe have some handicaps other than just their golf score handicap. What is it like for them to be out on the golf course?
They love it. As a matter of fact, we have 2 women in our program that are visually impaired. One is totally blind, completely blind. She comes from Cleveland. So we have women from Cleveland, Akron, Canton that come to the program at Clearview. But just to be out there in the fresh air and to be with women, as Beth said, that they bond easily. They know what they've all been through. In the military, they all understand each other. And they just enjoy not only the experience of maybe taking up golf for the first time, or maybe some who play but don't know others that they can play with. So it's a great experience for them. They love it.
Well, and Beth, in talking with you before the program, there were not an awful lot of opportunities for you to meet other women veterans during the course of your life, really?
No, in fact, it's been over 40 years since I left the service, and I didn't meet any women veterans until recently. I've only met 2 women veterans before the Clearview experience, and that is absolutely amazing. But it illustrates how women veterans felt the need to melt into the background. And now the positive aspect of this program is allowing us to come out and be what we are, who we are, without any any criticism or any worry about what the public thinks about us.
Well, and it's we talked before, it's almost like going into a support group where you don't have to explain who you are or where you are because the people you're with have been through the same experiences.
Right. It takes a minute or two, and then you're there without going into the background.
That is fabulous. Renee, there will be cynics out there who will say, well, of course the PGA would start a program like this because it will just bring more golfers and more money to them. How would you respond to that criticism?
Do you know what? They crafted the name and said, can you, there are women out there that have served their country, but we really have sort of let them fall through the cracks, and we haven't done anything, to really help them. So really, they're looking at it first as a program to help our women veterans. There are a lot of programs, like I said, there's a Wounded Warriors program and various programs out there that really cater more to the men. But several people said, we've not done anything for women veterans. And knowing that I had gone to Vietnam as part of a USO tour back in 71, 40 years ago, I guess I was sort of a natural fit for them to come to say something to try to get a program created. And, there are always going to be cynics out there. But we're doing something that is far better than the numbers. We're doing something that is really helping that individual and working with that individual. And then I think that is something that everybody, I think that's something that will really quiet the cynics. The cynics. And they will see what good this program is really creating.
Beth, you agree?
Oh, I absolutely agree. And if anyone asks, the PGA and Clearview are not going to get rich off what we spend. And it doesn't matter to us. They have to have the funding to offer the program. And as I say, women need assistance in playing golf on an ongoing basis. And it's absolutely necessary that the PGA get credit and Clearview and Renee get credit, and then that the resources are there to do it.
Beth, you made a comment earlier about how this has impacted your life. Explain what this has meant to you.
Well, it's brought peace to me. You'll hear that from many of the Vietnam-era veterans. It's brought closure. Because you have not had a chance to discuss it with your friends and your family, you sort of live inside a little bit of a shell. And all of a sudden, that shell is gone. And I cannot tell you what a great significance that is. To me, even though I'm later in my life and I've learned a lot of lessons, this has made a big difference in my life.
Renee, I know that this is a donation-sponsored, cost-free program that you are helping to organize and run through the Clearview Legacy Foundation. Mm-hmm. Explain what the tie between the two, if you would.
Well, the Clearview the full name is the Clearview Legacy Foundation for Education, Preservation, and Turf Grass Research. And so one of the mission statements is in education and bringing people into the game who otherwise would not have been able to maybe participate in the game of golf. And certainly I do a couple of other programs. One is with the LPGA USJ Girls Golf Club program. Another is with a Sarah Care Adult Daycare Center, which is for people who have dementia and Alzheimer's. Mm-hmm. And then this program, which I'm so proud of, the Clearview H.O.P.E program. And so this is really a sort of a arm and a part of that program. It's at cost-free for our women veterans. So we didn't say that in the beginning, but, we do 5 weeks of instructions for them, and they pay nothing. We try to make sure we get golf clubs, golf equipment, and shoes, and working on gas cards for women, because some of them come from Cleveland as far away as maybe 70, 75 miles away to come to these programs because they feel so good about the program. And so we need all kinds of equipment. We need all kinds of donations, whether it's funding from a dollar standpoint or equipment from women's golf equipment.
Well, we are at the point where we have to close the televised section of this special edition of NewsNite. But I want our television viewers to know that we're going to continue on the web at newsnight.net we're going to continue this discussion with both Renee and with Beth. But before we close out, how can donors, how can golf courses, how can women veterans get in touch with you to learn more about this?
Well, if they go to our website, which is www.clearview- or clearview-gc.com. They can find me there. They can call our phone number, which is 330-488-0404. They can look Clearview up on the internet, and they can find me there. And also, we are creating a web page for our women's veterans program. It's called Clearview H.O.P.E. So if they go on the internet and type in Clearview H.O.P.E., they will find us there also. So we want everyone to be able to find us. We don't want to be lost to anyone.
Thank you. We're going to continue this discussion with both Renee and with Beth. But for our television audience, I want to thank you very much for joining us and ask you to tune in next week when our regular panel will be back with our host, Eric Mansfield. Thank you.